How are you today? It has already been a really interesting, funny, kind of crazy day here at our house. So, we woke up this morning to a kind of smoky odor in the home. Not that we were on fire, but my husband is a fantastic cook. And he put a pork butt in the oven last night before we went to bed in a pan to cook overnight, and then he'll smoke it today. It's absolutely delicious. But good morning, whoever's joined. I'm just telling you how my morning started out here. So my husband put a pork butt in the oven last night to cook, getting ready to smoke it today, and we woke up this morning to the house kind of smelling like bacon. He came out and saw that his pork butt, as it juiced overnight as it was cooking, it exceeded the sides of the pan and it leaked everywhere in the oven. And we have a double oven, it was on the top oven, so not only did it leak in the top oven, but then it seeped down and it went into the lower oven as well. So he had to get that out of there. He's been spending the last almost 2 hours trying to degrease the oven from the pork butt. But we will be having some delicious dinner tonight that he's labored on way harder than he had planned to. And it's ruined the gaskets because the grease got all in the gaskets that seal the oven. So he's having to order new ones. It looks like that's going to be about $60. So that's how my morning started. How about yours? Um, it just shows us sometimes we have our best laid plans. We think everything's going to go great. And then boom, something happens and derails it. And today has been one of those days at our house. Good morning. I'm glad to see you, whoever has joined. If you want to say a comment, I'd be happy to say hi. If you don't want to, that's okay too. But I'm really glad you're here for our training today. As I mentioned in the Facebook group or posted, today we're going to be talking about shame. And, I can remember as a child, my parents even saying shame on you a lot. I don't know if anybody else grew up in the area where you were shamed by your parents, but certainly I carry quite a bit of shame from that. Hi, Casey. Hi, Shawnee. Nice to see y'all. And so, in fact, I was the extreme baby of my family, and my mom, my entire life until really the day she died, she told me I was the child she didn't want. And so there was a lot of shame that I carried around that. And on Sunday this last week, we had a fantastic pastor at our church. He was a guest from from England, who preached, and he just did a fantastic job. Good morning, whoever's joined. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hi. Talking about shame, and it made me really think about how we don't talk about it enough. I know Brene Brown has done some fantastic work with it, and that's really good to read or lean into for some help with shame. But first off, I just think it's so good that we're finally taking the stigma away from it and really realizing where shame comes from, how it's just lies in our head that we are being told. Good morning, Lashana, glad you're here. Lies that we're being told all day that derail us, that hurt us, that tear us down and keep us from moving forward in a lot of things because we're so worried about how other people are seeing us or judging us, or we're worried about even how we're judging our own selves. It's hard to be authentic and to be vulnerable because the world, especially since COVID, I don't know about you ladies, but it seems like everyone is on hyper attack. There's so much polarization. And so in talking about shame, it really is one of those things that you just see it exploding because with social media, it's so easy to be taken down. For your business, somebody puts an ugly comment on your page in some way, something that's a little derogatory or is questioning you. It's easy to then begin to say, well, is that really me? Is that, who I am? And it can send you down a really unhappy little rabbit trail, right? Into just self-destructive thoughts. And so I have done quite a bit of work on overcoming that in the last few years. Back in 2017 is when I went and got my coaching certificate. And going through that program, it really helped me begin to release the shame that I had from my childhood, all of the negativity that had been poured into my little brain early on that then becomes our default thoughts. Can anybody relate with that? That really the over time it just becomes the way you think, the natural way of thinking, and it's not what is intended. And so today for strategies, what I wanted to talk to you about is a couple of different things. First off is after this live, I'm actually going to share that pastor's message if anybody wants to go watch it, because it is truly outstanding on how you shush the shame in your head. And so much of it is faith, and it is God, and it is Him transforming your thoughts, transforming your mind, transforming your life to all that is good and perfect about you. You know, there's so many places in the Bible where it biblically states who you are because of who God made you to be. And, you know, the world just tears that down. It tears down all the things that He has equipped and called and made you to be, that you are beautifully and wonderfully made, that you are perfect in His sight, and that He makes you perfect and complete. And so leaning into the Word and what the Bible says about God's love and His provision and His design, His divine design for each and every one of us is so huge. And I will tell you, for me as a child, it was something I really took refuge in because, for one, I grew up in a really poor house. And my dad was a boat repairman out in West Texas. You know how many lakes there are out there, right? None. So he did not make a lot of money. And so we were pretty poor. And one of the things that I used to really compare myself and put myself down about was I didn't have the things other kids had. I didn't have as nice of a house as so many of the other kids. There was a lot of things where that I always felt less than. And what was the best thing that happened is my mom did take me to church every time the doors were open. And that's where I heard all the messages that really helped me. And, you know, one of the biggest things is each morning when I was looking in my closet, I would claim the scripture of do not worry about your life. Do not worry about what you eat or what you wear, because your life is more than that. And if God takes care of the birds, then He's going to certainly take care of you. And you know what's funny is that really did help me when I was putting on those hand-me-down clothes and feeling like I was less than going to school. It gave me the courage to get up and go and to be there every day because I had scriptures that were poured into me early on. And you know, ironically, it really stuck with me because I'm very conservative now about clothing. And I still, when I look in my closet and I'm about to put on something that's 5 years old, I remind myself again, you know what, it really doesn't matter because I go shopping and I don't find anything I want anyway. But anyway, that's a side note. So leaning on scripture is a great way to do that. And so this pastor's message just had so much goodness in it. That's why I want to share it with you all. You know, the other thing is I went and I got my coaching certificate. And through that, the work that I was able to do to develop my skills involved us trading coaching with each other as we were learning and growing. And, you know, it was really, I would say, embarrassing among peers going to coaching school together to really work on your true deep issues. But boy, we dug in, and it was the most freeing thing I encountered because it really did help me identify when I was having those default thoughts that were tearing me down rather than lifting me up. And the more I was able to do that, the more I was able to be set free to not judge myself or even judge others in how their success is happening, how their life is going. You know, each of us have our struggles, and I've been working on a 30-day guide, I guess, to really work through the thoughts that hold us back, and I'm calling it Perfectly Imperfect, because that's something I've really claimed pretty young, is that, you know what, nobody is perfect. Jesus was the only person to walk the earth who is absolutely perfect, right? And because He was perfect and He's the only one, it could give me peace that I don't have to be perfect. I don't, and I can't be, and I never will be. And so just taking off the mask, and that's one thing that Pastor John talks about, is taking off the mask that we put on, that everything is perfect, that we have it all together, that we never make a mistake, that we've got it all figured out. taking off that mask and just living in the reality of, guess what? I am imperfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not always going to do the right thing first. But with God by my side and with my belief in myself, my belief in what He's done for me, my belief in His provision and His guidance every day, I can just lay that all down and I can do all the hard things that when you start to do them, you feel that contraction. What if it's not going to happen? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't say it right? What if I don't, all of those what ifs that we do in our heads all day long, you can really begin to just find the peace of letting them go. And take a deep breath and say, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if I'm not perfect. And it doesn't matter if somebody's judging me that I'm not, or that they're thinking I'm fantastic. It really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. And I know that that may sound weird and hard to believe, but it's something that when you begin to claim it and own it and believe it, it truly gets where you lessen that little ugly voice more and more. So the other big part of that, besides leaning into the scriptures and really having the faith, because that's number one for sure, has definitely impacted my life in so many meaningful ways. I could probably tell you story after story of where that truly helped me throughout my whole life. Well, I'll take that back because I had about a 13-year departure from really having any kind of communication with God. But other than then, it really has served me very, very well. And, after that 13 years when I was knocked on my knees and things really had to change, I truly saw how that redemption came and how I could become everything that He had designed me to be. So the other thing is, now I lost my complete train of thought on that. So let me think about that for a minute. The other thing is that over the years, really learning as I have been putting into place more and more of the coaching around shame with people, and doing that work, what I have seen is it's so important to begin to truly look at situations where you recognize that I'm talking so bad about myself. I'm talking so ugly and down and putting myself out, just really tearing myself apart, and recognizing what that's doing to your energy. How is that affecting you? That energy is then being, you feel unmotivated, you feel overwhelmed, you feel kind of hopeless. And especially since COVID, I just see more and more feelings of this like compounding where that hopelessness really comes in. And so it's breaking down when you have that. First, you have to recognize, hey, wait, I'm hearing some really negative voices in my head, and they're not supporting me, and they're causing me to spiral downward. And so then you have to create new voices that spiral you upward. Because once you recognize it, you can do that. Because when we change our thoughts, we change our feelings, which change our actions. And so you want to feel loved, held, hopeful, want to feel excited, feel ready to move forward. And so the more that you begin to lean into, okay, what are my thoughts? And what's absolutely true about those thoughts? Because here's the thing. We have fact and we have fiction. So breaking down and looking at what are the true facts of the situation, things that I know without a doubt are completely true about this. And we take away the story we make about it, because that's the thing. We make meaning out of stories all day long. We're great storytellers and we don't even know it. But the stories are just all going on in here. And the more they go on in there, they compound and they get all crazy. And next thing you know, you're just completely wigged out for no reason except for all the meaning you have assigned to a situation. Because a situation is just a situation. It's just something that happened. But our brains are so complex, they take that and they just start making up stories around it. So it's separating the fact from the fiction so that you can own the facts and rewrite the fiction. You want to rewrite the fiction to have a happy ending, to have a story that feels good and gets you where you want to go. Because guess what? When you start telling yourself that new story, you start really stepping into that new story. And that's how you begin to spiral up instead of spiral down. Does that make sense for those of you that are here? I'd just love to know your thoughts on that, because I just really shared a whole bunch of stuff very quickly. So I'd really love to hear how that's setting, what questions you might have about that, or where it's resonating. That would be really beneficial, I think, for me and for anyone else that might watch this. Hopefully there's some typing going on, because it really is a lot to think about and to consider whenever you're in that place, to step back, be able to calm your emotions enough to step back. And so, hi Gabby, it is about perspective. You're absolutely right, because the perspective sends you either spiraling down or it spirals you up. And seeing mistakes as learning opportunities is brilliant. That is exactly right, because too many times we see mistakes as failure, right? But mistakes really aren't failure. They're, in a way, they're not even mistakes. And this is something I say all the time, is that anytime things don't go as you expect them to, that doesn't mean it failed. It means it clarified for you that wasn't the way to go. You have to try a new path. And, you know, in any business, and you ladies all have businesses, there are things where you are going to come up against an obstacle here and an obstacle there, and then just when you think you have it figured out, things are going to change in the world, perspectives are going to change, something's going to happen, and it doesn't work the same anymore, and then you have to figure out that new path. But it's too quick. We're too quick to say, this isn't working, it's failing, it's not going to work, and then we spiral downward. But instead, if we look at it as, okay, this is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to know another path, to find another path, because really the only failure is when we allow it to just grip us, hold us, and keep us there, or send us down, which is what happens. And that's what breaks my heart, is to see people who were once thriving and they hit an obstacle, and then the next thing you know, they just spiral down and down and down and down. And then I've seen some businesses close because of it. And it's just not necessary. And I'll even put it out there that back when we sold our store, I personally was in a spiral downward. The business was doing fantastic. I mean, record sales, things were going great. And it was running itself. We didn't even work that many hours. But in my head, I had made up a huge giant story of how it was a big old giant burden to me, that I didn't want to be there anymore. I just didn't want to be doing retail anymore. And it really led to, you know, part of us selling it. Do we have regrets that we sold it? Absolutely not. But I look back at it and I go, man, if I had known what I know now, would I have done something different? And you know, I don't know that I would have. But at the same time, it really has caused me, as I learned all of these things, to pause and look back on it and go, how might I have done that a little bit differently? What might the outcome have been? I truly believe God's hand was in it. And, you know, it was, again, something I was in continuous prayer about. So I do believe it was okay. But again, here's where that little voice can come up and go, maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you derailed your family. Maybe you did something you shouldn't have done. Maybe you should still have that shop. Blah, 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 maybe. You shoulda, shoulda, shoulda. You know what? That's not productive. So I don't go there anymore. But there was some times where I had in the past. And Shawnee, I love that you say there are no regrets. Every day is a learning experience and a gift from God. Absolutely it is. And everything, when you really seek Him, He is going to provide you the path that's going to take you where you want to go, or where He wants you to go, which is more important. We think we know what's best for us. Who's guilty of that? Holy cow. You know, I've always been one that's tried to control my own destiny, but I have found the more I surrender that destiny, the more I have peace, and I have joy, and I have confidence in the journey, even when things are not going well, even when things are not going as expected. I can find that peace and that trust because I have faith that I know without a doubt He's got me, because He's taken care of us through so many situations where really, you know, it could have been bad. But even though in those difficulties it felt bad at the moment, He provided. Sometimes it was just right on time and leaving you wondering, you know, how's the ending of this story going to be? But He provided and made good on all of our efforts, all of the things that we were seeking Him for, and more. And so, with that faith, that trust, that hope, that belief, that knowledge that we can do anything through Christ who strengthens us, and that we don't have to worry about every little thing because He's already taken care of it long before we did. And so part of it too is learning about how to just let go of control. And that's really the final piece of it, because that's the thing. We're constantly pulling, wanting that control, right? We want to control what people say, what people do, what the outcomes are. We want to control every little part of it. But what I have found is the more we surrender, the more I surrender to what it is that He wants for me and what He's going to do, and I quit trying to control it all, but just do what I know is what I feel like He's telling me to do, it all happens. And it happens easier and better, and without all the stress, without the worry, without the doubt, without the fear. Because, what does He say all the time? Fear not. How many times is that in the Bible? I don't know. It's like 264 times or something. I looked it up once. Fear not. And that's the thing, is humans, we are rid with fear. You are not alone if you feel fear. You are not alone if you feel shame. You are not alone in any of those things that rattle around in your head and hold you back from what it is you really want to do, or who you know you really are, or what you know God has planned for you. And so continuing to surrender that every day, my, what a difference. And LaShawna says, I was in my head after someone I was training really hurt me, but I had to get out of my head that her failure wasn't me, like she said. I was going down that shame spiral. Took a day, made peace with it. Her lies were hers, not mine. So beautiful and such a great example. Thank you for sharing that, because that is what we do. We take something that someone else says and we make it truth. Again, that's where we're removing the fact from the fiction, right? And so we make it truth because they said it, it must be true. But if you really look at it and you realize that that's just their perspective, who knows what's going on in their life, that whatever it is you did, you said, they just project it on you. It's kind of one of those things that back when we had our store, my husband always put it so well. He would say, when people come in and they're angry, they're not angry at us. We're selling gifts. We're not doing anything to be angry about. It's because there's something else going in on their life that just whatever didn't go right, that little thing that they bought wasn't quite what they expected, or was not going to be needed as a gift anymore, whatever it was that they wanted to return, and they came in ready for a fight about it. As soon as we just empathized with them, sure, we're going to take care of it. Guess what? That anger came down, and we were able to usher them on through, or that they felt great when it was over, and we did too. And that's so much of it, is when we approach situations, especially when we feel under attack, it's the hardest thing to do and the most counterintuitive thing to do, but is to lean in with compassion, because there's something going on in that person's life that's making them explode. And the same thing for you. Likely, if you uncharacteristically explode, it's because there's something going on in the background, something going on in that head that's causing you to uncharacteristically explode. And so you have to get to that root and rework it so that it's not spiraling you down and into anger or into sadness or into just shutting down, but instead spiral you up into lean toward the opportunity that exists, the goodness that's waiting for you, the great plans that there are for you. So I hope this has helped you, just a little mini training here on shame. This is one of the things that I do all day long really with people, because so much of what holds everyone back in their life and in their business really revolves around the way we try to hide our true feelings, our true desires, our true needs, because of the fear we have of how we're going to be judged, what others are going to say, and then ultimately how that affects how we talk to ourselves. And the more that we can really truly step into our authentic identity, what God has designed us to be, and what He has put before us to accomplish through our work, it all gets so much easier and so much less stressful. And so that's what I want for all of you, because there's no guarantees or there's no expectation really that life wasn't meant to be hard, because it is. That's a fact. That is truth. Life is hard. Running a business is hard. Navigating the two together is hard. They're very difficult things. But you know what? When we lean into really understanding our thoughts and how they're creating our feelings and our actions and putting God in the center of that, it doesn't feel so hard anymore. And in fact, even in the worst, most difficult times, it can feel peaceful and actually exciting to see exactly what you and He can do. So that's my training on shame today. Anybody else have any comments or thoughts that you want to add here before we sign off? Well, I will just say that if, of course, anybody would like additional help with dealing with their shame, if there's anything that I can do to help you work through some of this spiraling down versus spiraling up, it's my joy and honor to do so. And I'm just so thankful that God provides exactly what I need and exactly what you need anytime, whenever we're ready to do it. That's right, Gabby. Hard makes it worth it. And you're amazing, Lashana. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate you and your participation. And let's just, flick that off. Let's reprogram those words and let's grab all that there is that God has planned for us. So the video will be up shortly for that pastor. It's a whole video of our service, but if you go, I put in there when you can, where he actually starts speaking, if you just want to shortcut it to that. Your first time to use earbuds so you don't miss anymore. Yay, good. Predictive text, I know. I've learned how to just read, I can read minds. I can read what you were typing, Lashani. But thanks for clarifying. All right, ladies, you have a very blessed and wonderful day. Let me know if I can help, and I just hope this sunshine and warm weather is going to bring great, beautiful thoughts for you and results for you today. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.